And where's the flip button? You look good at this bit of the oven.
Just remember to save it.
It's easier filming on a phone because on a phone it's not shaky. I think because it's bigger, it's like...
Yeah, I guess you could do, but it's harder to read the comments.
Yeah.
So. Afternoon, James Hillery from Great British Bake Off 2017 for another bake along with NASS. Of course, every good bake along starts with a cup of tea. We're going to be making lemon muffins today, or lemon drizzle muffins. Should take about 20 minutes to cook, so in that time we'll be making the drizzle to go on top, but you can ask any questions you want. I think we've got quite a few started to join now. My able cameraman and question asker is Oliver. How many have we got?
We have 18.
Excellent. So we'll get going. We'll start by preheating the oven. So we're going to go on 180 fan today. Which is 200 on a conventional oven, 200C conventional oven. Somewhere around gas mark 5 or 6, I think it is. You gas people will be well aware of what you need. We'll get that preheating, then we'll go and start mixing and making stuff. We'll have a quick run through the ingredients to start with. I've got my handy cheat sheet because I often forget what I am doing. So we've got 255 grams of plain flour, 3 tablespoons of baking powder, half a teaspoon of salt, 100 grams of caster sugar, 1 egg, 85 grams of butter that we're going to melt in a minute, 240 millilitres of milk. You can use any you like, full fat, no fat. We always have semi-skimmed in the house, so that's what we use. You need 2 lemons and 85 grams of icing sugar. We're going to put the zest of one of the lemons into the muffin, and the zest of the other lemon goes into the icing along with the juice. So we'll go through all that in a minute. So if you can click on buttons to make sure you're okay and ready to go, any emoji will do, and then we'll get going once you're ready. And I'm going to have a sip of tea first. Anything going on?
Couple.
I should have said also, it makes 12 muffins. So I've got a muffin tin down here that I'm just going to line with paper cases, so that'll make small muffins. If you've got those tall cases, just make 9 and fill those up, but we'll go through that in a minute. So to start with, we're going to need 85 grams of melted butter. So you can either melt it in a pan on a low heat like I'm going to do, or you can put it in a heat-proof bowl, stick it in the microwave till it's all melted. We'll get that going and then we'll mix our dry ingredients together. A little bit too much. 84, close enough. Right, so I'm going to go through and just put it on my hob, medium-low heat, just so it starts melted. We don't want it to burn or anything, just to melt, and we're going to mix it in with the milk and eggs and the wet ingredients shortly. So we'll leave that. While that's gently melting, we can go back and start with our dry ingredients. So I'll give you a minute to get your butter on the go and start melting. Once you're ready, just put your thumbs up or say any emojis at the bottom. Can you see who's joined?
Chris Holland, Dave Roderick.
Hey Chris, Chris is from our NASS group. welcome.
Claire Mountain.
Hi Dave, hi Claire.
Gail Knowles.
Hi Gal.
Anna McGilvray.
Oh, from NASS. Hey Anna.
Getting a couple thumbs up now.
Brilliant. So we will start putting the dry ingredients together. So in a big mixing bowl, we'll start with 255 grams of plain flour. You can use self-raising flour and omit the baking powder, but as a baker since Bake Off, I've always used plain flour because then you can adjust the raising agent if you need a bit more lift. But self-raising flour is fine in these muffins. That's about 255 grams. Again, modern flours you don't really need to sift unless you're doing something that needs it really extra light and fluffy, so I don't bother. Then we're going to go 3 teaspoons of baking powder. One, two, three. Then we're going to go half a teaspoon of salt. Again, I probably said this on the last one. Everyone's got a morbid fear of salt, which is true in processed foods because there's a lot of hidden salt. But when you're baking, you know how much you're putting in. You don't have to add salt, but salt is a flavour enhancer, so it does make them taste better. So it's worth putting in and looking at reducing salt elsewhere. And then 100 grams of caster sugar. You can use granulated sugar in these, that'll be fine as well. And then you just stir this through just to combine the sugar, the baking powder, just mix it through gently, just makes it easier to mix once we put our wet ingredients in. And I'll take a pause there and put your thumbs up or give us a smiley face if you're still keeping up with me. If you've got any questions along the way, just type them in and I'll ask them. And if I'm going too fast, just say slow down, no problem. I'm going to have a sip of tea.
Lisa's joined.
Hey Lisa. Are we all good to go to the next stage?
And a couple thumbs up.
Cool. So now I'm going to measure out my wet ingredients. You can do this in a jug or a bowl, doesn't matter. We're going to need 240 millilitres of milk, which is 240 grams in weight.
Got a question.
Yep.
Will it be okay with no cases, or should I do it in a loaf tin?
No cases is fine. Just grease the tin that you're using. They'll come out fine. So just use a bit of the paper off the butter, a little bit of butter, grease it round. As long as it's a non-stick pan, it will come out well. And when at the end, when we put the drizzle on, I'd say leave them in the tin while the drizzle soaks in, let them cool down, and then take them out. Whereas if they're in cases, it's easier to take them out of the case and put them on a cooling rack and do it. But I'll show you that later. But yeah, no problem if you haven't got cases. So 240 ml of milk, again, anyone you choose. We're then going to crack an egg into that. And then just whisk the egg in a bit, just to break it up and distribute it a bit. You want the yolk to kind of want the yolk to blend in. That's been good enough for the moment. And then I'm going to zest or grate 1 lemon into the liquid as well. If you're grating, use one of the fine grating sides of your grater. But again, we'll just do this over the wet ingredients so it catches all the zest and the oil that comes off. And it's really the lemon oil that really gives the lemony flavour in this. Try not to lose your knuckles. When we get to zesting the lemon for the the icing, I'll give you an anecdote of when I was running a class doing lemon madeleines and asked the class to zest the lemon, didn't give them good enough instructions, which is you just want to get the yellow piece off. As you start to get through to the white, stop and just find another bright yellow bit. The white's the pith and it's quite bitter. Make sure you get all that goodness in there. Keep your lemon because we'll use that for the juice for the icing. Now I'm going to go back to my pan and just take it off the heat if it's melted. So I'll let you catch up and then check your butters as well. I'll be back in a tick at the table.
Could you go over the previous instructions quickly, because there's a few people that have just joined?
Yep, certainly. So what we've done so far is we've put all the dry ingredients into one bowl. So that's 255 grams of plain flour, 3 teaspoons of baking powder, half a teaspoon of salt, 100 grams of caster sugar, and just combine it all together. We've melted the butter. I've done that in a pan. You could do it in a microwave. Ooh, nearly a disaster. Do love a little bit of excitement. You could do it in a bowl in the microwave, but just melt the butter. Then in a jug or a separate bowl, I've got 250 ml of milk. I've cracked an egg into that, beat it up so it's mixed and combined quite well, and grated the zest of a lemon on top. You smell it nice. Well, you can't smell it, but at home, once you zest it, you can smell a really nice lemony smell. And I'll pause there and give me thumbs up if your butter's melted and you're ready to go on to the next stage. Also, we've preheated the oven to 180 fan, 200C conventional, gas mark 5 or 6, I think it is. And if anyone's using gas, can you check and just type if that's the right number? I'm sure it is. Okay, so once we've got our wet ingredients, now we'll stir the butter in. So keep moving your milk around, don't really have to whisk it hard, and just pour the melted butter in, just to mix it through the wet ingredients. Make sure all your lemon zest is in there. I'm just going to put this in the washing cup. Doesn't matter if it separates on the top, that's fine. Now we're going to put the wet ingredients into the dry ingredients and just combine it until it's combined. Try not to over mix it, it'll get tougher the more you mix it. It may look a bit lumpy to start with, but don't worry, you can even cook it and it's a bit lumpy and it will come all fluffy in the end, so don't panic.
What's the title of this bake again?
This is a lemon muffin drizzle, or a lemon drizzle muffin even, if I get it the right way around. And the reason I've gone for more of a muffin rather than a lemon drizzle cake is that we can bake these and they can come out and I can do the next stage, whereas a lemon drizzle cake can take about 40 minutes baking and it'll, you'll have a boring just picture of my table. Whereas this way we can get it all done together pretty much as we go through. So again, just stir it around. I've got a silicone spatula, you use a wooden spoon. I wouldn't worry about getting out big machines if you've got big machines. Most of these bakes that I'm doing at the moment is for people in lockdown who may not have all the equipment, so I keep it nice and simple. So that's pretty smooth. There's still a few little lumps in there, but that's good to go as it is. So once you're all mixed, give me your thumbs up. Cool, it looks like everyone's pretty much where we're at. I'll move that out of the way. So, the person who asked earlier, again, you can just grease your muffin tins, it'll be fine. They should come out with no problem. I'm just going to put muffin cases in because I've got loads in the cupboard. Again, this will make 12 small muffins or 9 bigger muffins. So if you've got the bigger muffin cases that come up a bit higher, feel free to go for 9 and top them up a bit more. So there we go, we've got a dozen muffins all ready to go. So I've got a bit of a hack, it's not essential, but you're going to either need a big spoon or you can use an ice cream scoop. Ice cream scoop just makes it a lot easier to get it into the tin, but not essential. So take a scoop and you're kind of filling them up about 2/3 full. And there should be enough mix to do that across all of them. And then if I've got any left, I'll just come up and top up any that are a bit light. Perfect thing about these is that they'll be cooked and out of the oven all ready for your afternoon cup of tea and a snack. I practiced these yesterday just to make sure I could get them done in a decent amount of time, and then realised I used up all my lemons yesterday, so I had to shoot out to the shops to get some more lemons. Don't know if Jimmy Ginger's on or Jamie and Lara. He was gloating about the amount of lemons that he had in his kitchen. Oh, a bit on the edge, doesn't matter. Right, so they're all full up. Give me a thumbs up once your tins are filled, and then we'll go and move them into the oven, which should have been preheating while I've been doing this, so it should be nice and hot and ready. We're going to bake them for about 20 minutes. They'll go slightly brown on the top. They may crack, that's fine, that will just suck in the drizzle that we're going to put on, which is perfect. We'll put them in there for about 20 to 25 minutes, depending on how hot your oven runs. Check it with a skewer, which I'll show you at the end, just make sure it comes out clean, and then we'll stab them a bit, give them some extra holes for the zest and the juices to flow into them and let them cool. So give us a thumbs up when you're good, and we'll go on to the next stage. Cool, it looks like we're ready, so I'm going to take these through to the kitchen, so I'll let you all follow me. I normally do mine on the middle or bottom rack. Just pop them in, 20 minutes, and then we'll come back. If your oven runs really hot, check them about 18 minutes, but on yesterday 20 minutes seemed fine on mine. So what we'll do now is we'll head back. I'm going to plonk everything into the sink, just get the mess out of the way. So I'll give you a couple of seconds to tidy up wherever you're working, and then we'll start on the drizzle mixture. So now we've got 20 minutes to fill, so if you haven't got any questions, probably a good time to fire them away. Again.
Got Julie Parker, John Parker's mum.
Oh, hello Julie. one of the mums from Oliver's school friends.
Mike said don't drop it.
If anyone saw, I did a banana bread bake-along last week on my own Facebook feed for Lisa. Mike is my nephew, his wife, and a friend who was in New Zealand, and a few other people joined. I finished baking it all, showed them one that I made earlier. Then when I got my one out off camera, I just dropped it on the floor and it just splattered everywhere. So we all make disasters at times. Okay, we'll get going on to the icing next. And I'll fill in with a lemon anecdote. Obviously the best anecdotes in the world always come from a lemon. I was teaching a class in Brighton. There was about probably 15, 20 individuals there. They all come from I think it was a kids' nursery. They'd all booked it for a fun day out, and then they was going off to enjoy Brighton. And we needed to zest the lemon. And I said, just zest the lemon into your bowl. Which I thought was quite clear. I thought everyone knew how to zest the lemon. So I was going round chatting to the 15, 20 people. By the time I got back to the beginning, the person who started zesting his lemon had basically grated all of his lemon up to about there. So he decided to grate the whole lemon, which made for an interesting rest of the afternoon for his baking. So again, when you're zesting, just take the bright yellow off, leave the pith underneath. That's all you need. So I'll start with measuring out the icing sugar. And this is really your preference. I'm doing this as a lemon drizzle, so I'm going to use quite a lot of lemon juice in it, which gives it a bit more of a tang, because the muffins are quite sweet. It's a nice balance. But if you prefer thicker icing, more that white icing that sticks on top, ice them when they're cold, but also don't put nowhere near as much lemon juice in. Just mix a tablespoon in, mix it until you get it to a nice thick pouring consistency. This will end up pretty much clear, and it will soak right into the muffins. Again, you could sift your icing sugar, but I'm not too precious. Oh. A bit too much in there. So we're going 85 grams of icing sugar. And then we're going to zest the lemon you haven't zested yet onto the icing sugar. Again, this will keep all the flavour then into the bowl, and it saves you putting it into a separate bowl and trying to move it and lose half your zest. I'm using a microplane because they just make a nice fine thing, but you can use just a normal grater, whatever you got. Hopefully it's smelling lovely and lemony in your houses. Right, so that's all the zest into the icing sugar. Now I'm going to cut these two lemons in half and just juice them. I've got one of those old-fashioned juicers that we always used to have at home. You can just juice it through your fingers, catching any pips, scooping any pips out, or if you've got one of those wooden ones that you use, go for that. However you juice a lemon, go for it. You can stick a fork in them and twist it round, that also works. This is where I wish I left a bowl for my rubbish. It works out about 70-80 ml, I think, of lemon juice. But this is something you don't have to be too exact with. If it looks too thick still, you can always just put in a little teaspoon of extra water. But generally 2 lemons, whatever size you've got, is going to be plenty. And then you're not diluting the flavour. This muffin recipe, if you left out the lemons in the actual muffin recipe, you could put a teaspoon of vanilla essence in and just have vanilla muffins. You can put chopped chips into it. It's a really versatile recipe. Cinnamon, raisins, whatever you fancy. But obviously today, fancying a nice lemon drizzle. Now I've just dropped all the pips perfectly into here. Seems to have been a week of baking disasters for me. I made my worst loaf of bread ever this week. I think it's the heat. It was so bad even I wouldn't Instagram it. Normally I would Instagram my disasters, but I could build a house with how solid it was. The only other time we've made a loaf that heavy was when I first made a loaf with my dad when I was about 7 or 8 at home. We left it in the garden for about a week or two. The birds wouldn't eat it, storms wouldn't wash it away. I ended up having to throw it away, but it was that bad. Right, I'm just going to get a fork so I can stir this in. Bear with me one sec. How's everyone doing? Have they got their icing, sugar and lemon in one bowl? Are we all zested and juiced? Give me a thumbs up if you're ready to go and I'll move on. Cool, we're looking good. So I've put this in a small bowl. You can do it in a bigger bowl if you don't want to spray so much around. I'll start with mixing in about half of the lemon juice, just to get it going. And then I'll go in with the rest of it. And we're just going to keep stirring until all the lumps dissolve. You can use a spoon or a silicone spatula. Just smush down any lumps you've got. And we've probably got about 10-12 minutes left on the timer, so we've got plenty of time to make this nice and smooth. You want it to go kind of a transparent yellow, rather than a thick icing, unless you like thick icings. Oh, another pip, another pip. But if you've got any questions, bake off or any baking related questions, more than happy to answer them. And for any of those on with AS, you can probably tell that the me bending over like this is probably the worst position for most people with AS, because my back is killing me. I'm longing for the physio classes to restart at NASS. There's such a godsend. But there's some for people with ankylosing spondylitis, which is the rheumatoid or the arthritis condition that I've got. There's some brilliant videos on the NASS website and also live Q&As as well going on at the moment to help people think about the stretching, think about pain, all that fun stuff.
Jam first says, can you do a scone bake next?
Yeah. So Jam first, thank you for joining. So I co-host with a number of other fantastic bakers on the Cream Tea Hour on a Thursday at 8 PM on Twitter. It's an hour of tweeting about baking. So we all take a week every about 6 to 8 weeks. Jam first was the person who created Cream Tea Hour. Very passionate guy from passionate individual from Cornwall. So he loves his Cornish bakes. More than happy to do a scone bake along. Obviously, the jam first reference is that you need jam and then cream. You've got to do it the proper Cornish way. Starts lots of arguments and debates on Twitter and Instagram, but we will bring in some Cornish bakes. That may be across on my own Facebook page, we'll see. Right, so I'm pretty much done now. There's plenty to go on each muffin. We've still probably got, let's just go in and check the muffin, see how long we've got. Do you want to come on? See how they're doing. So they're all rising nicely. We've got about 9 more minutes on the bake. So we'll head back, do a little bit of tidying up. I'll give you a couple of minutes to make a cup of tea if you want to make a cup of tea, and then we'll be back. Happy to answer any other questions if they're coming through.
Have you put all the lemon juice in?
Yeah, so I used 2 quite large lemons, so I put them all, both of the lemon juices in. Again, if you want it thicker, you can just use one. I prefer two because it really soaks in well. If you look, it's nice and runny. And it soaks in well into the top, and it gives you a little crust as it dries out. So ideally use both lemons. And it also makes it quite tart as well, so it gives you a good balance between sweet and tart. Any other questions or comments on that?
Not at the moment.
Hopefully you're all keeping up. You've got your drizzle ready. I'm just going to throw a few bits in the bin. Ollie can do an arty shot of a bowl of lemon juice.
Don't know how arty I can make it.
I'll be back in one tick. I think I shared with people on 2 weeks ago on the first Bake Off that I was asked how do I get into baking and how does that help with my AS. Back in 2012 I was diagnosed with ankylosing spondylitis. I was training for the London Marathon. Olympic year, fantastic year to be out running and exercising, and Britain felt great then, not so great now amongst COVID. I was exhausted after my runs, far more exhausted than I should be, and I was getting some back pain. Fortunately, I had a brilliant doctor who diagnosed me relatively quick and referred me to a rheumatologist. And I was told never to run again, which was the worst piece of advice I ever got. If you listen to NASS, it's all about exercise, keeping moving, keeping flexible. So I needed something as a bit of a stress relief. Running used to be that, going out for a nice run, clear your headspace. So I went back to baking. I baked as a kid. Absolutely loved baking with my dad. We had good fun times, and I bake with my kids as well now. And then I'm quite competitive. So whilst I was baking, I was also watching Great British Bake Off, and I thought, yeah, I can do that. It's only a bit of baking. People were doing degrees along the side. So I signed up, I applied, and by miracles I got onto the show, which was fantastic. Consumed a whole year of my life, and I didn't realise how stressful it would be. So the thing that I did for stress relief became the most stressful thing in my life. So I started running again. I got some good advice from physios at NASS to say, as long as you listen to your body, take it easy, go for it. So I started running again, and I did another marathon last year. I signed up for this year, which I've had to defer because I've been having more back problems. But this weekend, I'm going to get out running again and start training for next year's marathon. So I'm getting a combination of baking and running. Sorry, Ali, you said there were some questions coming through?
Have you found you've been able to get most ingredients in the shops now?
Yes, I think it depends where you go. So we've got a little farm shop just up the road that rations flour, so you can only buy one bag. Doesn't matter which type, you can only get one bag, which makes it fair for everyone. So flour's been easy to get. I don't make a lot of yeasted breads or bakes, but I have got a couple of packs of yeast. Again, the farm shop had some, and Sainsbury's online have had some. Bizarrely, plug-in Sainsbury's online, other supermarkets are available. We can never get eggs from them, yet if I walk into the shop, they've got 1 million eggs, so I don't know why they don't like delivering eggs at the moment. But I think most things are coming back in now, so I think it's a lot better than it was. I think people have stopped panic buying as much as when they started, and I'm sure people will be throwing away 100 weight of flour that they've never used, although they felt the urge that they had to buy it along with pasta and tomato sauce.
Can you do lemon and lime, or with the icing sugar would it be too sweet?
No, lemon and lime would be perfect. When I'd run out of lemons, I was worried that if I couldn't get lemons, I would have to mix it up, and I had limes in the fridge. So lemon and lime's a lovely combination. You get a lot less juice in a lime than you do a lemon, so probably do 2 limes to 1 lemon. That should give you the amount of juice you need and the amount of zest. You can also do them as orange, so just use 1 big orange, zest half of it into the mix, zest half of it into the juice, and then just use juice of 1 orange in there. Or lemon and orange combination as well. St Clements is the traditional mix there.
I've not been able to get caster sugar. Can you use granulated for cakes?
Yeah, definitely. Caster sugar is just finer, granulated sugar. You can use them interchangeably. When I grew up, all we had was granulated sugar. So we always used to use granulated sugar. Easy swap. If you've got a blender, not a blender, like a Magimix or one of those, you can dump your granulated sugar and just whiz it for a little bit, and it will just make it finer. But also you could use icing sugar, because that's just extra fine caster sugar in effect. So you can use them all interchangeably, just use the same amount of weight. If you're using volume, so if you're in the US and use cup measurements, it's different, because the volume of icing sugar is a lot lighter, and you don't get the same volume per cup as you would a granulated or a caster sugar.
Did you use self-raising or plain flour?
For me, I generally use plain flour, and then either add baking powder, which then you can adjust how much rise you want. You can use self-raising flour instead, just leave out the baking powder. But generally, because I make lots of different types of recipes, I find plain very versatile. Then I've always got a baking powder and a bicarb of soda. Baking powder is a combination of bicarb of soda and what else has it got on? It's got a cream of tartar, which is an acid. So you've got an alkaline and an acid mixed together. Baking soda needs an acid to activate it, so you often see bicarbonate soda in recipes where they have buttermilk or acidic things like that. This has got lemon juice. Well, actually, you haven't got lemon juice in the batter, but if you put a tablespoon of lemon juice in, you could use bicarb soda instead. But this kind of, as it mixes with liquid, the alkalines and the acids interact to make it all fizz. Baking chemistry.
What's the most useless gadget you've bought?
That's a good question. I've bought lots of useless, pretty much every gadget I buy is useless, to be fair. I've spent a fortune on various knives or lames to slash a sourdough bread. Most of them have failed. I've got one really good one now, which is basically just something that holds a razor blade. So I've got through a lot of those. I've bought lots of, at the beginning of baking, I bought lots of different types of tins, which you use once and then never use again. So a lot of my baking now has been focused on either just having a simple square tin, a simple round sort of tall cake tin, a tart tin and a muffin tin. Most things you can do in those 4 tins, unless I've got to do something speciality. So I did a Corona bottle cake for my nephew's 21st. And I needed small tins to get the diameter of the bottle. Most of the time you can just use 4 simple tins. But yeah, you really don't need a lot to bake. And most of the baking I'm doing at the moment is with a wooden spoon and a bowl. I've got a lovely Magimix, which I love to use. I've also got KitchenAid, which are probably the 2 best buys that I've had ever. The other thing I use a lot is a Dutch whisk, and I'm going to go and get it because it's a... Rather than a balloon whisk, this is called a Dutch whisk. And what it's great for, if you're mixing, like we was mixing today, is because it's got big holes in, you can use it a bit like a wooden spoon. It mixes in really well, or you can use it for mixing bread dough at the start. That's really versatile. I prefer it to a balloon whisk if I've not got to kind of whisk something up to a frothy peaks. But that's probably one of my best gadgets I've bought, which I found through bread baking. I think I saw someone on Instagram use it and I got fished in.
Angela Parker has the same oven as us. What setting did you use?
So I use, good question, the setting that comes up when you switch it on. Perfect timing because it's beeping, so we'll go to the oven and I'll just double check. But it's a normal fan setting that comes up straight away. So. Right, so I'll come back to that question, Angela, in one tick. So for testing, you can use a wooden skewer, anything with a pointy end. You just want to put it into the middle and make sure it comes out nice and clean. If it's still got some moist, wet bits on, leave it in for another minute or 2. These are all done nicely. I'll check another one. Looking nice and clean. Use a toothpick skewer, sharp knife, anything you got. I'm going to put those on there at the moment. So back to that question, it is the It's the Circotherm setting. Do you want to go straight on to it? Yeah. Which is what I use for pretty much everything, unless I'm baking bread, and then there is a bread setting which gives extra heat from the bottom, which is good to get your bread to rise. But the other, about 20, apart from the grill, the other ones I seldom use. That's it. Right.
People braided their thumbs.
Great. Hopefully they're coming out of the oven and they're looking nice and brown on top, risen and nice and clean. Now I'm going to take these out of the can, of the tin, and put them on a cooling tray, just so I don't burn myself when I go back to the table. If you've made them just in the tin and you haven't got the paper cases, leave them in the tin while you're putting the drizzle on. It will help them soak in. Because we've got the cases, it's holding the juices in, so it's just a bit easier for me while I'm demoing. That's a big old piece. These were a hit with the family, so the dozen that I made yesterday that I was going to share with my dad, drop them off in a very sensible social distancing way. The whole family ate, so he's going to get some of these. So what we'll do is, like you would do on a lemon drizzle cake, is just make a few holes in the top. Just give them a little stab. This will just help the drizzle go in once we start drizzling. Grab a thumbs up if everyone's coming out cooked okay and that they've had long enough in the oven.
A couple of people just putting them in for a couple more minutes.
Perfect. Right, whilst you're killing your lemon muffins like I've just done, I'm going to take them back through to our lounge. I'm going to get a tray to put them on because when I drizzled yesterday, I made a total mess everywhere. So I'll just put it over a tray so that will catch any mess as I'm doing it in the lounge. Right, my drizzle tactic now, just give it another mix up so the because the zest would have floated. You want a bit of zest on every one. So I'm going to go round and put a teaspoon on top of each one first, and then go round and do another teaspoon once it's soaked in, and another one. Should be able to get about 3 teaspoons in. And kind of try and pour it in the middle where you've done the holes. It'll drizzle around the edges, that's fine. And if it's not all covered on the first go, don't worry, because we're going to come back and we'll fill in any gaps that we've got. And for lemon drizzles, it's always best to do it when it's warm because it all gets sucked into the cakes or the muffins. If you want that nice white type icing, so you've done it a lot thicker, wait till they've cooled. Otherwise the heat will melt it a bit and it will end up a bit more like a drizzle. Right, so I've been round once, so I'll go round again. It's up to you whether you want 2 or 3 teaspoons on each one. I did 2 yesterday, it was delicious, but I'm going to go 3 today. It's coming up on National Cream Tea Day soon as well. Jan 1st, what day's National Cream Tea Day? Maybe we'll do a live bake along to tie into that. All right, I'll go around for my last one. This is where, by the luck of the gods, I will just have enough to get 3 teaspoons on each.
26th of June was National Printing.
Oh, excellent. 26th of June, so about a month's time. We might do a scone bake before that so people can get ready for cream tea out. But so that's the lemon drizzle cake or muffins. Hopefully they've all worked out lovely for you. If you're going to put them on social media, on Twitter or Instagram or on Facebook, tag me. I'd love to see how they come out. Hope they're delicious. If you want to leave comments, we're going to save this video into the NASS website, so it'll be there to look back on if you need to look back on it. But if you can like it, if you want any more, leave it in the comments and I'll chat with Anna about if people enjoy them. Happy to do another one in a few weeks' time. Any questions before I go? A thumbs up that you've got something out the oven or it's almost ready. Because I want you all to enjoy your Sunday afternoon with a nice lemon muffin.
If you're icing, would you still drizzle them, then ice with lemon juice in icing as well?
No, if I was icing, I would just use a thick icing, so only probably barely a tablespoon of lemon juice or maybe up to 2 with that amount of icing, so it's nice and thick. Let them cool and just put that on top. It will sit on top, it'll be a lovely lemony topping to it, but I wouldn't drizzle and put icing on. Although you could if you feed them really fancy and want that extra sugar kicked.
Looks like that's about it.
Excellent. Thanks everyone for joining. Have a lovely bank holiday. Hope they come out well. Hope you've enjoyed this session. Sure I'll be back for another one soon. So take care. Have a lovely day.